11 signs that it might be time to consider assisted living. As our parents or grandparents begin to age, it is normal for them to need more help in different areas of their life. As family members, we begin to see the changes and the increased need for help. Our loved ones are often accepting of help up to a point. Many things can be happening besides our loved ones getting older. They can be experiencing diminished health, the fear of losing their ability to do things for themselves, and grief and loss of the things they are not able to do for themselves. It can be challenging to help and care for an aging loved one. The needs and care required to care for our loved ones may be unrealistic. There are many factors to consider. Not only is our loved one in need of help, family members have their lives, their children, and their spouses to consider. The situation can be difficult and complicated. For example, changes in roles. A parent who was the caregiver of their child now becomes the one cared for. This can cause relational difficulties. Personal care is another area that is difficult for everyone. There comes a time when more safe care is required. The question is, how do we know when this time has come? We are going to look at 11 indicators that it could mean it's time to consider assisted living for your loved one. These indicators are not in any order as far as risk or severity. And this list is not exhaustive either. There are other factors that could show that it is time for more care. 1. Care is overwhelming. When the care for your loved one begins to demand more of your life than you can give. When the needs and care leave you feeling exhausted. And you are becoming frustrated because they are requiring more care than you can or give. The care your loved one needs increases as they become less able to do things for themselves. They are needier and begin to need more care in some cases than our children. 2. Safety. Safety needs to be at the top of the list. When our loved one is having a difficult time making good judgments about the things they do, they are having some memory loss or confusion. They are found to be more forgetful. They begin doing things like leaving the stove on, or the oven on with gas escaping into the room. They are spending money on things that are careless. When this happens, they are at increased risk of exploitation. As our loved ones grow weaker, they are at risk of falls. Falls can lead to serious injuries. It is important to point out that being in an assisted living facility will not guarantee a loved one will not fall. It can cut the risk of falls and help is immediately available. Increased supervision is important to make sure that our loved ones are not putting themselves at risk in some way. 3. Social isolation. Isolation is particularly noticeable for those that are normally outgoing and active. For those that are not as outgoing and never seem to get out much, isolation is no less of a risk for them. People are social creatures and need to interact with other people. Our loved ones need to interact and have relationships never decreases. If anything, the need for having people around increases. There are currently 13.8 seniors who live alone, and this number is only going to rise. According to a study done by the National Institute on Aging, seniors who live alone are at a greater risk of both mental and physical health issues. Our loved ones are at risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease, and even death. These are some of the main mental and physical health issues our loved ones can face, but there are many more as well. The main point to consider here is that both isolation and loneliness are associated with increased mortality. 4. Changes in mood and behavior. As a person begins to experience loss of both their cognitive and physical abilities, it is normal to see a change in their mood and behavior. Our loved ones become frustrated and angry with those who are only trying to help. It is not uncommon for loved ones to become both physically and verbally aggressive. The increased aggression puts both you and your loved one at risk. It is difficult to separate yourself from what is taking place. You're not used to seeing this behavior, which can lead to increased caregiver fatigue. It is often easier and healthier to have a third-party caregiver provide care in settings where your loved one can be cared for. 5. Loss of memory. As our loved ones age, it is common for them to experience some loss of memory. They are not as sharp as they used to be. Their judgment is not as good as it used to be. You begin to see them doing things you know they would never do. Spending money on charities, buying things they don't need. It's not uncommon for our loved ones to become lost and forget where they are. They can begin to not recognize the familiar people in their lives. This adds to the increased safety concern also. 6. Diminished physical abilities. As our loved one ages, they become weaker. They are not as steady on their feet as they used to be. Their surroundings and environment can become dangerous at this point. If they live in a small home or apartment, it can become difficult for them to get around. In some cases, one's home can become very unsafe. Stairways can be difficult to go up and down. When our loved one can no longer use the stairs, they are no longer able to use that part of the house. Not to mention the fall risk stairways can present. 7. Poor diet. As our loved one is less able to do things for themselves, their ability to cook and prepare meals becomes a challenge. Instead of eating healthy meals, they begin eating more frozen dinners. And when this is too difficult, they turn to less nutritious alternatives. Processed foods such as crackers and chips can be their mainstay. While in many communities there are meal programs for seniors, this is often not enough. 8. Difficulty in personal care. As things become more difficult and impossible for our loved one to do for themselves, basic needs suffer. Simple things like brushing their teeth, bathing, combing their hair, and getting dressed can be unrealistic tasks for our loved ones. They are not likely to ask for help with these things. Poor personal care can lead to serious health issues and diminished quality of life. 9. Housekeeping neglected. Basic housekeeping is not getting done. The pride your loved one took in their home is no longer there. It's not uncommon to see garbage beginning to build up. Trash cans don't get emptied. And the list goes on. Not only is there little to no cooking done, and the dishes that are used begin to pile up. This is a sure sign of change and that your loved one is in need of extra care and support. 10. Financial responsibilities forgotten. There could be a number or reasons that our loved one neglects or pays their bills late. This could be because they forget, or they are not able to any longer. It may appear that your loved one doesn't care about these important things like paying bills. It could be that they are doing all they can to get through the day. It could also be that what is important to them is different as they age. Regardless of the reason, there is a need to have someone provide care and make sure their needs are being met. 11. Increased visits to the doctor or hospital. Worsening medical conditions and more frequent trips to the doctor are a sign that your loved one needs help. As their health declines, there is a lot to keep track of. Different appointments, different medications, and attention to detail can be confusing. There could be several underlying reasons for the increased medical care. These are only 11 signs that your loved one needs extra care and help. The bottom line is, you are the expert on your loved one. You have known them longer than anyone. Things can look normal to the casual onlooker. But if things are not right. The mistake many people make is telling themselves that these signs are not present. It is their imagination. It can be a tough conversation to begin and have. Your loved one may even refuse to live with you or go into an assisted living facility. It is normal to even feel guilty about helping your loved one go into an assisted living facility. Remember, the quality of life, safety, and well-being are the most important things to consider for your loved one. I hope you found this video helpful. Please contact us with any questions you may have in the description below.